Well, hello Rovers. It is absolutely great to be back on board Wave Rover to make this announcement. You see, when Wave Rover was sold about a year ago, we all thought that was the end of the Wave Rover story, and it was sort of the end of my dream to sail solo around the world in a small boat. But I'm happy to say that wasn't the end. That was simply the end of the beginning of the Wave Rover story. You see, this time the dream is even bigger because it includes building a boat from the ground up. You see, a lot of you have asked me, what do you do when you're at sea? Well, one of the things I've always done whenever I'm on these long voyages alone, I start thinking about what could I do to improve this boat? And you get all these ideas over the years. Well, I don't have the skills to turn all those great design ideas I had into something that would be safe for me to take to sea. But that's where the Wave Rover community comes in, because through that community, a good subscriber, and he's become a great friend, Tom, has reached out to me, and he put me in touch with a friend of his who's a naval architect. And that man, the naval architect, who I'll be talking about in the next episode, well, he's taken on board all these ideas that I've had, and through countless emails, countless phone calls, and countless sketches, well, we've zeroed in on something that I think is going to be really cool. Before I get into the design details and measurements, let's talk about the mission of this vessel. Number one, she must be strong enough for a world circumnavigation. Number two, she must have positive buoyancy to remain afloat should she ever be flooded. Number three, she must have sufficient load-carrying ability to carry supplies for an extended ocean voyage of at least 60 days. Number four, she must be light enough to be propelled by either a 3 horsepower electric outboard motor or a sculling oar. Number 5. She must be comfortable at sea, possessing both protection from the elements and a rig that is easy to control and repair if need be. Number 6. She must be built to optimize wind vane self-steering, and by that I mean the Mark III wind vane. And finally, number 7, she must be small enough and easy enough for the average person to build in a residential garage. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room here, and by that I mean the rig. So I've chosen to go with the Chinese lug sail, also known as a junk rig. And the reason I've done that is because it's known for its simplicity, not just in building but in operating. Easy to reef. Any backyard builder can also make both the mast and the sail, which in my books, that means independence. Well, the Chinese junk rig, as many of you know, performs very well off the wind. But how well will this boat perform to windward? Well, at this point in the design, we are anticipating that she will sail to windward somewhere in the vicinity of 45 to 55 degrees. We'll know better after we've completed some sea trials. But I mean, that's a reasonable amount for me, because when I go to sea and I'm sailing, almost all my sailing is off the wind. Very, very little of it is to windward. And when I am sailing to windward, especially in big seas, if I can get 55 degrees off the wind in a small boat, I'd be pretty happy. Well, let's take a look at some of these numbers now. So her length overall is 21 foot 4 inches, and at the waterline it's 21 feet. So that puts her about 5 feet shorter than my original Contessa 26. Now I fully expect that this new boat is actually going to be much faster on ocean crossings than the Contessa. And that's mainly because she's so much lighter. So she's coming in at just under 3,000 pounds, fully loaded for an extended ocean voyage. Now, in addition, she only draws 3'6". But another great feature that the naval architect and I, we bandied about considerably was the mast height and the sail area. So she's coming in at 230 square feet. And that's a considerable bit of canvas for such a light boat. So we should get some pretty good speeds. But the thing is, a junk rig is so easy to reef that when the winds get up, you can just, in seconds, reef this sail from the safety of the cockpit. And nothing could be easier than that reefing system. Another design feature was the height of the mast. So the mast height is just under 25 feet, and that includes the section that comes through the boat down to the keel. So from the cabin top to the top of the mast is just 21 feet, a really small spar. And the reason I wanted to keep that short is because a Chinese lug sail, or junk rig, if you will, the spar is unstayed, and because of that, you want to make sure that it's strong enough to withstand excessive loads. Well, the next design feature that probably really sticks out to you are the twin keels, or what's known as bilge keels. Now, just a little background on this. The very first boat I built back in 1994 was a 26-foot Brent Swain design, and it had bilge keels. And I built that boat and sailed it across the Pacific from British Columbia in Canada all the way across the Pacific to Australia. And I did that with bilge keels. And the one thing that really sticks out in my mind is the boat really rolls less than my Contessa did with its straight keel. So one of the advantages of a bilge keeler is that they don't roll as much. And why is that an advantage at sea? Well, it's because when the boat starts to roll, you lose a lot of wind in the sail. The sail collapses, and then the self-steering becomes difficult. So with this, I'll be able to optimize my wind vane self-steering, and at the same time, I should be able to optimize the sail shape because of the boat won't be rolling anywhere near as much. The second reason, which is probably fairly obvious to people, are that the boat itself will stand on the bilge keel. So you don't really need a cradle. So when it comes time to clean the bottom, you can just sail up gently onto a beach, let the tide roll out, clean the bottom and paint the bottom, and then wait for the tide to roll back in and float her again. So you don't have those expensive yard time and maintenance to worry about. Another feature of the bilge keel is that when it comes to transiting the Panama Canal, it's always something I worry about. Part of the reason I worry about it is it's so expensive these days. I'm probably looking somewhere around $4,000 US to transit the canal. And then, of course, I have to wait in line for my turn. And on top of that, I have to have 4 line handlers on board, plus a pilot, plus myself. On a small boat, that is just really, really difficult to accomplish. On top of that, you have to be able to power at least 4 to 5 knots. Again, hard to accomplish on a small boat with limited power. So all things considered, I'll be looking at the possibility of having the boat just put on a simple flatbed trailer and just trucked across to the other side, from the Atlantic side to the Pacific side. So, I mean, that in itself should be a huge cost savings. A minor point perhaps, but one that's important to me. And finally, the interior. Now this is just a very seaman-like basic interior, full of common sense. There are 2 quarter berths, but in fact I'll probably opt when I'm at sea to have an athwartship berth that I'll just set up with a simple piece of plywood across the companionway. Apart from that, the cargo is stored throughout the boat, making sure that it's in a sense ballast, and there is positive flotation both in the port and starboard quarters and also in the bow, and that's what gives the boat its positive buoyancy should she ever be flooded. Wave Rover Hull number 1 has been designed purely for a solo circumnavigation. She will be simple, she will be safe, and she will be strong. 3 things that really form the basis of the Wave Rover philosophy at sea. The build should take about 18 months. Now I could probably do the build in about half that time if I didn't have to record and document everything. But frankly, that recording and documenting, making the videos, has become a fun part of the whole process for me, because it has allowed me to develop this sense of community with you. And that this community has been so supportive, and I think now I couldn't imagine doing this voyage if I didn't have this great community. Thank you for that. After completion and the sea trials, I'll be taking her on a solo circumnavigation. Starting the summer of 2023, I'll be leaving the east coast of North America here from a port I haven't determined just yet to Horta in the Azores. And I'm really hoping that I won't be going alone. When I say that, I mean I will be going alone in Wave Rover 2, but I'm hoping that there will be some of you that will have built either the same boat, hull number 2, hull number 3, so on, or a similar craft, and we will be going as a small flotilla to the port of Horta. Nothing would make me happier. Now I'm happy to say that the sales for the Mark III plans, and the Mark III, for those of you who don't know, that's the name of the wind vane self-steering system I designed for the original Wave Rover, and I'll also be using it on this new vessel. Well, the sales have gone very well, with about 100 plans sold to date, and it's those funds that I'll be using to fund the initial plywood order. So a big thank you to all of you who have purchased the plans. Much appreciated. Now I'd also like to thank you, all of you who have contributed via PayPal or Patreon. That support is absolutely critical to the success of this project, and many, many thanks for that. Now if you're not in a position to contribute via those links, which are in the video description, check them out anyway. I've kept them fun and nautical. They might be good for a chuckle. So in the next episode, I'll be sharing some more details of hull number 1. I'll also be talking about the whole design process, and I'll be introducing you to the background of my naval architect. I'll also be showing you the boat shed. Now I'm building a boat shed on my buddy Brian's property with my friend Brian. Now I'll be explaining why I'm building a boat shed with Brian on his property. So until next time, Rovers, thanks for watching.